So, Gotham Knights. No, not that Gotham Knights, but the Gotham Knights that could very well be ordered to series at the CW that we might be finding out in a couple of weeks' time. Today, I wanted to talk about everything that we know so far, such as who exactly is the adoptive son of Bruce Wayne, who is banding all of these people together to avenge Bruce, or kind of clear their name for Bruce Wayne's murder, and yes, we're going to get into that story. Some villain casting such as Harvey Dent, or maybe not quite a villain just yet, and we've got some very interesting details on not only the casting, but the details surrounding the story of Harvey within this show. Even Bruce Wayne on set, and just overall as well towards the end, just kind of how I'm feeling about this. So if you want to know everything that we know so far, this is the video for you. Let's get into all of the details about Gotham Knights. So first of all, I think I should start off with the synopsis, because Entertainment Weekly reported in December 2021, the somewhat current synopsis of the show, if you will, is as follows. So the Gotham Knights TV series will follow Bruce Wayne's rebellious adopted son in the wake of Bruce's murder, as he's forced to forge an unlikely alliance with the children of Batman's enemies after they're all framed for killing the Caped Crusader. As the city's most wanted criminals, this renegade band of misfits must fight to clear their names, but in a Gotham with no Dark Knight to protect it, the city becomes more dangerous than it's ever been. However, hope comes from the most unexpected of places, as this team of mismatched fugitives will become its next generation of saviors, known as the Gotham Knights. I'm going to save my thoughts on that synopsis and, as I said, gel my whole thoughts together about all of this towards the end of the video, but carrying on with some more information, such as this show comes from Batwoman writers Natalie Abrams, James Storrow, I cannot pronounce names, I do apologize, and Chad Fivash. Say what you will about that, doesn't mean that this show won't be written well just because these writers worked on Batwoman. Just had to put that out there. But, you know, fair enough if you are still kind of apprehensive if you didn't enjoy Batwoman. But carrying on, and if there's any Gothamites out there, this information might be interesting. Danny Cannon is helming the Gotham Knights pilot, of which began shooting in April. This was also confirmed by Danny Cannon on his Instagram, with him posting this image. Now, again, if there's any Gothamites here, you may remember or recognize the name of Danny Cannon, as he was an executive producer on Fox's Gotham, as well as Pennyworth. He's also teased some other photos on set, such as the Gotham City Police Department, the JCPD, some GCPD cars, and a seal, if you will, as well as what appears to be a toppled over GCPD transport van. Now, earlier this month, May 2nd, was indeed actually the final day of production for the pilot. So, to be honest, we should be hearing fairly soon at the CW upfronts, which I believe is May 19th, if this series or pilot will be, you know, springboarded into an order for an actual whole season. And, you know, that's going to be interesting because, you know, it could very much so happen, and I'm not going to weigh in too much on this right now, but, like, it could happen because Batwoman's gone. It's like, bye-bye. Legends on the CW of Tomorrow, Legends of Tomorrow has gone, so that could pave way indeed for Gotham Knights, but you could argue, hey, what if that's not even going to make series? But yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see. Now, as for the castings, let's read out who's been cast, the character descriptions, and some of them are some really interesting castings and could make for a very, very interesting show, just given the big Batman characters that are going to be in it. So let's start right at the top. Variety reported in early March that the CW had cast both Fallon Smith and Tyler DiChiara as series regulars. Now, Smith stars as Harper Row, described as streetwise, acerbic, and often underestimated. The blue-haired bisexual is a gifted engineer who can fix anything, but what Harper wants most of all is to repair the broken lives of her and her brother Cullen, the only person she trusts. Now, as many of you may already know, but for those who may not know at the same time, Harper Row is known as Bluebird from that of the source material. Now, if you've read The Court of Owls, for example, you may already know of her because she was created by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. And yeah, if I remember correctly, it was around 2011 when that character in the Court of Owls first appeared. Now, Tyler DiChiara, I hope I pronounced that second name correctly, stars as Cullen Rowe. After years of hiding his true self from an abusive parent, the transgender teen is tired of being polite and agreeable. Clever and adept at reading human nature, Cullen is ready to fight his own battles. Cullen Rowe, as the name suggests, is the younger brother of Harper Rowe. Now, as the description suggests as well, as per the source material, they had quite a rough upbringing, and more or less during that Court of Owls storyline, when Batman escaped that underground maze that the Court of Owls set for him, which is one of my favorite parts in that story. It's very grueling. Harper Rowe, the older sister, actually managed to help out Batman after he barely made it out, even restarting his heart with a car battery. Now also, she wanted to help out Batman because her and her brother had actually encountered Batman before, because they were once confronted by some thugs who were targeting Cullen because he was gay. Batman basically appeared out of nowhere, saved them, and that left quite the impression on the Rowe siblings. Then at the end of March, it was announced that Anna Law had joined the cast of the pilot to play Stephanie Brown. Now, described as possessing sarcasm matched only by her intellect, Stephanie was raised on a steady diet of brain teasers and puzzles. She's honed her skills to become a formidable coder, but her greatest talent may be hiding a less than perfect home life. In the DC Comics, Brown has fought crime under multiple monikers, including, spoiler, Batgirl, and Robin. And I'm sure many of you know who Stephanie Brown is, appearing long before Harper and Cullen in around 92 in the Detective Comics. Now, this is where you could argue that they could tie in some of the plot here. As per in the synopsis, the adoptive son of Bruce Wayne teams up with Batman's enemies' children in some way, shape, or form, because she is the daughter of one of Gotham's villains, Cluemaster. However, one of the more likely allies of the adoptive son of Bruce Wayne, of whom we will be getting to, is one of the other early castings in March, in where the CW announced that Olivia Rose Keegan will be playing the unpredictable daughter of Harvey Dent. As reported by Variety, Olivia Rose Keegan will play Duella. Described as abrasive, unpredictable, and a little unhinged, Duella is above all a survivor. Born in Arkham Asylum and abandoned by her father, the most dangerous man in Gotham, Duella forged herself into a brutal fighter and a skilled thief. Now, you may also know that she's gone from the alias of Joker's daughter in the comics as well as quite a few other aliases. But then with another casting, and I think a lot of you all know this one as well, and that is Carrie Kelly being played by Navia Robinson. Described as fearless, idealistic, and plucky as hell, Carrie talked her way into being Batman's unlikely sidekick. If there's a burning building or a person in need, she's the first to rush in, just as long as she's home by curfew. But just who is the adopted son of Bruce Wayne? Because even before what I'm about to read out came out, I was thinking, what, are they going to do Dick Grayson? Because technically Dick Grayson is being used on HBO Max's Titans, and I was unsure about that because usually, as you may know, sometimes there's a bit of a licensee issue with things like that going on. And lo and behold, even though Dick Grayson isn't the adoptive son of Bruce Wayne in this show, it kind of feels like a little bit of copy and paste, but I will give the benefit of the doubt for now, but you'll kind of see what I mean. So Oscar Morgan will play Turner Hayes. Despite the murder of his biological parents, Turner remains resilient and driven to live up to his billionaire adoptive father's name. While charming and soulful, Turner has never quite felt comfortable in this world of wealth and privilege. So, you know, biological parents gone. It's not Dick Grayson he adopted, it was Turner Hayes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never heard of Turner Hayes in the source material, so I'm guessing that he's an original character for the show. I'm also guessing they wanted to go down that route because Dick Grayson is already in a literal live-action show of HBO Max's Titans, played by Brenton Thwaites. So they're probably like, hey, Turner Hayes. Turner Hayes is the guy who's going to bring the children of Batman's enemies together as the Gotham Knights. But I won't discount and I won't rule out, you never know, Dick Grayson could be canonical in the world of Gotham Knights. Maybe he died like in Snyder's universe, I don't know. Maybe he's out there as Nightwing. Maybe there's going to be a one-liner, but maybe they can't even reference him because, you know, he's on Titans, and maybe they can't even reference Jason Todd. But at the same time, they should be able to get away with a line to that of, oh, Dick Grayson's in Bloodhaven, or something like that, and the current adoptive son is Turner Hayes. It's just that I guess Batman's adopted a few people who have lost both their biological parents, which isn't insanely unusual. So I'd love your thoughts on that. But it's going to be interesting to know if they're going to make Harper and Cullen Rowe's parents villains, or even if they're kind of like mobsters in Gotham and they're technically the kids of one of Batman's enemies, and that's how they get brought in, as they're quite the leads of the show as well. But as for Harvey Dent, I just can't say that name without trying to do an impression. I'm quite happy with this one because I can really see that this is quite a good casting, at least in my mind. Now, personally, I didn't go all the way with Supernatural, but I have been a big fan of Supernatural, and it turns out that Supernatural Misha Collins has been tapped for the role of Harvey Dent. So described as dashing with a swagger, Collins' Harvey Dent is Gotham's charismatic, hard-charging district attorney. With a rigid sense of right and wrong, Harvey's idealism and single-minded quest for justice will ironically and tragically transform him into one of Gotham's most feared supervillains, Two-Face. Now, when reading that and the description earlier, like her father, Duella's father, being one of the most dangerous men, I think that was just more for description purposes, like generically, because it seems as though that he won't be Two-Face at first. Now, how do we know this? Well, that's because of Misha Collins himself. Now, thanks to bleedingcool.com, they wrote up some details on Misha Collins, talking about his role as Harvey Dent and whether or not he'll be playing Two-Face, and I believe he was talking about this at a Supernatural convention. So while discussing the role, Collins admitted that taking it did come with some personal concerns. I had a little bit of compunction about that because I know X will be like, yeah, fitting role. That actually did cross my mind. I was like, I don't want somebody to have such an easy insult for the rest of my life, he explained. And Collins is impressed with what he's seen of the production. Warner Bros. Seem to be putting a lot into the pilot. It seems like it has a great team behind it. For example, our costume designer did The Handmaid's Tale. We have really top shelf people on the project, Collins shared. And then, if it's picked up and turned into a series, which would be really cool, my character will be Harvey Dent for the whole first year. So I have a nice long stretch of not being Two-Face, and then I become Two-Face. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll be the only old person on the show, which, now that I think about it, is what it was on the last show. Maybe I've been typecast. And speaking of costumes, Supernatural fans will appreciate Collins' position when it came to Dent's choice of coat. There's a coat, it's not quite a trench coat. I was like, can we make it even less of a trench coat than what that is? Because I'm really trying to branch out anything but trench coats, which is, you know, a little bit of a joke on his role as Castiel on Supernatural, in where practically 99.9% of the time he always wore that trench coat getup. Now, personally for me, this is by far the most promising thing for the show. I really like Misha. I think he's a decent casting for Harvey Dent. I would be dying to see what his acting chops would be like as Two-Face as well. Now, in other news, in TikTok videos of, you know, just people, bystanders, just kind of seeing what's going on as Gotham Knights was shooting its pilot, there's a trailer for Cullen and Bruce Wayne, meaning obviously they have an actor for Bruce Wayne. Potentially this could be a flashback to when, maybe even as what we were saying earlier, Cullen and Harper Row get saved by Batman, and maybe it's just going on with that introduction. But then there is also a funeral scene, which is kind of half expected since Bruce Wayne dies in this show, which again is kind of the catalyst for what kickstarts the story of the show, with all of these characters and cast coming together. As far as I'm aware, and the research that I was doing, nobody's seen who or what this Bruce Wayne looks like, which actor it is, so no idea really as of right now. I have no idea if he's going to start off dead, if he's only going to be in flashbacks, if the pilot will actually have a living Bruce Wayne in it before he dies. That all remains to be seen. And that kind of just about ends what we know so far, and I just kind of wanted to detail my thoughts on this show. So am I excited for it? I would say no. Like in like a blunt, candid answer, I would say no for now. And that is just because it's more or less the premise right now. And I was very tempted to talk about it as I was reading it out, but I tried to just stick to strictly what we know so far until this point. The premise just seems to be a bit like, not massively tropey, but it's like kind of reminding me of what Batwoman had. It's like, we had an Arrowverse show where Bruce Wayne was missing, and Batwoman has to fill the void. Now we're getting another show in the Arrow. Well, this technically isn't an Arrowverse show. I think it's going to be standalone, at least the way kind of Stargirl treats itself, even though that can be argued it is basically in the Arrowverse. You've had Jay Garrick in that show, and there's a tie-in comic going on. But either way, I digress. With this, let's assume for now it is very much so a standalone show. It's definitely not a spin-off from Batwoman. But what I mean is like, oh, you know, Bruce Wayne dies. And what I'm trying to say is right now, with my apprehension of CW shows not being the kind of best quality in the world, albeit I truly do stick with my guns and how Superman and Lois is the first show of CW shows to differentiate itself from that of the quality of other CW shows. The reason why I don't include Stargirl in that is because that was kickstarted off on the DC Universe streaming service. But other than that, I don't think Naomi's any good. Like, personally, Superman and Lois seems to be it. And with the kind of tropey premise of this show, kind of retreading a similar mark of that of Batwoman, at least with, like, oh, Bruce Wayne, well, he's not missing, but he's dead, you know. It's just like, you know, I don't know him here. You know, the kids of the enemies of Batman's villains and stuff. Trust me, I'm a die-hard Batman fan, and it would only serve me well to be really, really, really behind this project for my channel, you know? Like, I got quite a few Batman fans, but, like, I'm not gonna judge too harshly for now, but I just want to be honest. I'm gonna wait for the footage. That's where my judgment will be initially. I'm not gonna jump ahead now saying, oh, this show's gonna be trash. I don't know that. I like Superman and Lois. I just think it's very, 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 very important for this show to be successful, despite me being really intrigued and optimistic with Misha Collins cast as Harvey Dent and stuff. Danny Cannon helming the pilot. I know it's going to look good because Gotham cinematography and the way it was shot was pretty decent. Fox's Gotham, that is. It will probably be impressive, at least in a few ways to begin with, but I don't know about the kind... It does kind of have a CWE kind of esque vibe, if you know what I mean. But I want to give it the benefit of the doubt because Superman and Lois, again, I keep re-emphasizing that because Superman and Lois has proved naysayers of the CW wrong. So I hope Gotham Knights is decent. I hope it's not incredibly cheesy. I hope that the writing's good, but that's, of course, we all hope that. Why wouldn't I hope that? For me, I think it's fair to say with how the Arrowverse has kind of died off throughout the years and is coming to a close slowly but surely. Batwoman's gone, Legends is gone, The Flash is rumored to be ending with an abbreviated season next season in season 9. I just feel like we need something strong, firm, and innovative, just decent. And I have a bit of apprehension, but I think that's fair enough given the quality of recent years, albeit Superman and Lois gives me a little glimmer of hope. But let me know what you think of Gotham Knights, guys. Do you like the sound of it? Do you like what we know so far about it? Does that give you any hope and optimism about the show? Do you think it's just going to kind of maybe have a flicker of a sheen of a new filter that might kind of make it seem like, hey, this is cool, but may end up as a typical tropey CW show? Or do you think it will be really good despite that? Just like how Superman and Lois has encouraged a lot of Arrowverse audiences, including myself, that the CW can really still make decent shows. But if you enjoyed this video, do share it with your friends, anyone else who you think would like to be up to date with the pilot. Like the video, that really does go a long way to helping me out in the algorithm and getting this out there. If you want to follow me a little bit further, I do have a Discord server. I have other links to my Twitter down in the description below. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I guess I'll see you fellow Gotham Knights in the next video. Goodbye.